Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into a piece of legislation, House Bill 164. It's called the Power Act of 2025.
That's right. We've got the bill text here. It went over to the Senate, specifically the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, back in January 2025.
Okay. And our mission today is really just to figure out what this bill is trying to do.
Right.
Okay, especially regarding electric utilities and, well, disaster prep.
Exactly. How we handle disasters, how utilities fit in.
So jumping right in, the core seems to be amending the Stafford Act. That's the big disaster relief law. Section 2A of this Power Act looks to add a whole new subsection specifically for electric utilities.
Correct. Under Section 403 of the Stafford Act, which is all about essential assistance during emergencies.
And the first part of that new subsection, paragraph 1, seems pretty significant.
It really is. It basically says electric utilities could perform cost-effective hazard mitigation activities while they're doing power restoration.
With federal help for both.
Yes, potentially with federal assistance. And it mentions doing this jointly or otherwise in combination.
Okay, so it's not just about flipping the switch back on after a storm. It's about building back better, essentially. Hazard mitigation.
That's the idea. Hazard mitigation means taking steps now to reduce the impact of future disasters. Think stronger poles, maybe burying lines in flood zones.
Right, instead of just replacing a down pole with the same kind, maybe use a storm-resistant one.
Precisely. Or reinforcing a substation against wind. Things like that. It signals a shift, from just reacting to proactively building resilience.
Makes sense. Now there's a second part, paragraph 2 in section 2A. This seems to tackle eligibility for other types of aid.
Yeah, this is important. It clarifies that if a utility gets federal money for, say, emergency power restoration.
Like immediate post-disaster help.
Exactly. Getting that emergency help won't stop them from being eligible for separate hazard mitigation funding under a different section, Section 406 of the Stafford Act.
Ah, okay, so they don't have to choose. They can get immediate help and apply for funds to make long-term fixes.
That's the goal. It removes a potential disincentive. You wouldn't want utilities holding back on emergency work because they're worried it affects funding for, burying power lines later.
Right. It encourages taking those proactive steps without a penalty.
It views recovery and resilience as sort of two sides of the same coin, both necessary.
Got it. And when does all this kick in? There's an applicability section, 2B?
Simple enough. It says these changes only apply to money appropriated after the Power Act actually becomes law.
So it's purely forward-looking, no retroactive changes to past funding.
Correct. Only for future appropriations.
And just for context, where is this bill in the whole process? You mentioned January.
Right. It's H.R.164. It already passed the House of Representatives on January 15th, 2025. Then it was received in the Senate the next day, January 16th, and that's when it got sent to the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs.
So it's currently being reviewed in the Senate committee stage.
That's where it stands, yes.
Okay, so let's sort of wrap this up. The Power Act of 2025 really aims to let electric utilities do two things at once after a disaster: restore power and build in protection against future hazards.
And crucially, it wants to make sure accessing funds for one doesn't block access to funds for the other. It's trying to pave the way for a more, resilient power grid.
More reliable power, hopefully.
That's the objective. It's interesting to see legislation explicitly linking that immediate response with the longer-term investment in making infrastructure stronger.
It definitely leaves us with something to think about. So severe weather seemingly on the rise, how could a law like this actually change how reliable our power is? And maybe how utilities invest in the grid in, say, our own communities.
And it makes you wonder, could other sectors benefit from this kind of integrated thinking? Combining immediate disaster aid with funding for future-proofing, something beyond just electricity.
Definitely food for thought. That's our deep dive for today.